on Bindal and Woolgarukaba country in North Queensland. And depending on where you are joining us today in Australia, it could be your morning or your afternoon. And you might be in a mild temperature zone at the moment, or a little more on the cold side. But thank you very much for joining us all today. So this is one of 2 webinars that we will be hosting for potential candidates who might be interested in applying for the Australian Rural Leadership Program. For course 32, applications are now open, which we're incredibly excited about. And course 32 will commence in June of 2025. So the aim of the webinar today is just to give you a little bit of background and context, things that you might like to keep in mind before you apply, or things to consider as you are applying. We'll walk through a little bit about the process. And joining me today, I've got some of the members of the ARLF team, as well as some of our alumni from a previous Australian Rural Leadership Program. So before we go into what we're going to be presenting today in the webinar, I want to acknowledge that wherever we are today in Australia, we are meeting on traditional lands across the country, and we acknowledge the traditional custodians of all the lands on which we work, meet, play and learn, and acknowledge that this land has never been ceded, and it always has been and always will be Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander land. And on behalf of ARLF, I want to acknowledge that we recognise the continuing connection of First Nations Australians to land, waters and culture, and I pay my respect to their elders past and present. And I also want to warmly welcome and acknowledge any First Nations people who are attending this webinar today. Just a little bit of housekeeping for the webinar. If you can all stay on mute in the first part of the webinar, there will be some Q&A at the end, and at that point we'd welcome you to come off mute if you would like to ask a question. As I'm just introducing this, if you are interested in popping into the chat room who you are and a little bit about where you might be joining from today, what traditional country you're on, where you might be, we'd love to know where you're all joining in from today. So you can put that in the chat box. That would be amazing. This is a recorded webinar, and we will be posting that later on today, so that if there was something that you wanted to go back and clarify that you thought you missed, you'll be able to go back and see it. And we'll also be providing it for people who can't be in attendance for the live webinar. If at any point during the session and the information we're presenting, if you have a question, please feel free to pop it into the chat box. And as I mentioned at the end of the session today, we will actually be able to have some time for some questions to anyone here at ARLF team or our alumni who are joining us today. So I'd like to start. I'm going to just talk to a few slides. Just a few slides, give you some high-level information about the program itself, the Australian Rural Leadership Program, a little bit about the process for recruitment and the awarding of scholarships, some of the expectations that we have of people who participate in this program, and then we will talk to you a little bit about the scholarships that are provided for participants in this program and what some of the expectations are around that if you are awarded a scholarship. So, Joran, if you're happy to put up some of those slides. Thank you. So again, a warm welcome to everybody who's made the time today. Joran's just mentioned that the chat has been disabled, so I'm sorry if you haven't been able to pop that in the chat, but I think some of you are putting some in the Q&A, so that's great. Thanks, Joran. So if you've had an opportunity to look at our website already, or you might have seen information on social media about the program, what you will know is that the Australian Rural Leadership Program is our longest running leadership development program in Australia, specifically designed and delivered for people who are endeavouring to develop their leadership for rural, regional and remote Australia. We're the only organisation in Australia that specifically does this, and we're very, very proud to say that we have been delivering this program for 31 cohorts. And as I mentioned before, we're very excited to commence recruitment for the 32nd cohort. So the first programs were back in 1992, and maybe some of you weren't even born at that point. In its current delivery format, the ARLP is a 4 in-person residential program that is spread over a 15-month period. So as I mentioned, you will commence in June of 2025 and you would be completing at the back end September or October of 2026. So that gives you, and the sessions are fairly evenly distributed, those 4 residential sessions. The 4 residential sessions are value added with in between virtual workshops, and for course 32 you will actually be doing some coaching, some action learning groups, and there are elements of self-directed learning as well. The requirements of the program are that there is mandatory participation in the residential sessions. It's really, really important with the modalities and the methodologies that we use in this program that you are there. Your presence contributes to the outcomes and the learning of everybody else. So those sessions are non-negotiable. And I would ask you just to consider that. Make sure you look at the dates and to really, really, really look as far ahead into the future of those dates as you can, just to ensure that you would be able to attend those 4 sessions residentially. And then, as I mentioned, in between those sessions, we have other elements that we expect that people will participate in as well. As you're going through the program, you will be making consideration of what your participation is meaning for you. And also there will be some commitments to communicating some of that to the sponsoring organisation that will fund your $60,500 scholarship. So that's an incredible investment that could come from a small organisation, a larger organisation, a research corporation, a corporate organisation, a philanthropic organisation. We have a multiple amount of different people sponsoring our scholarships. And because of the sheer value and magnitude of that scholarship, there will be some communication requirements of you back to your sponsor. There's also a participant contribution that individuals, so as your sponsor will offer up the greater part of your scholarship funding, and then all participants are required to make a contribution as well. This covers some of the inputs to the program and also some of the post opportunities that come with being part of the ARLF network. Again, make consideration around, please, your capacity to pay that participant contribution. And I'll explain a little bit more about the processes going forward in the recruitment as we go along. Where do we go? Well, we go, because we are a rural, regional, remote focused organisation, as you can well imagine, those are the landscapes and the contexts that we use as much as we possibly can. We're extreme advocates for learning in the outdoors. You'll be outdoors as much as possible. You will be remote frequently, and the reason for that is that we see incredible value in taking people away from and into places where they can focus solely on the learning and development that needs to be undertaken, removed from as many external sort of distractions as possible. So there's changing locations for all of our sessions. Thanks, Jordan. So this is a little bit of it's quite a detailed map or a high-level overview of essentially what would be happening if you are successful in being part of course 32 of the ARLP And you can see there that we can share, you'll be able to see these slides and we'll be able to share these with people who've attended as well, just to give you a bit of an idea of what I mentioned before about how the program delivery is paced, how we actually spread some of the deliverables and the inputs of learning over the course of time for which you are a participant in the program. And so if you get a chance to look at that, just see the sequencing of it, the fact that when you come, for example, in session 1, that will be delivered in June of 2025, and there will be 12 days where you would be undertaking the program. And for the majority of people, there's a day on either side of that to travel. Depending on where you live, of course, in Australia, some travel can take longer than that, but there's actual 12 days of delivery. So if you just take a bit of time when you get the opportunity to look at this bit of a map, you'll see how the different intervals of when you'll be required for the compulsory learning components. Thanks, Joran. A little bit about the timeline for this particular program. So as you know, applications are open. They're currently open, and we have a cut-off date of the 5th of August of 2024. So we really would like all submissions to be completed by that date, and then a panel of people will commence looking at those applications in terms of the volume and how many different people we might then be looking at moving through to what we're going to call the second phase of this process. If at any point you wanted to reach out and speak to somebody about your application, you're either about to commence it or you're in the midst of commencing it or you're getting to the end, please feel free. We'll share some information at the end about how you can get in contact with us about your application. So once the applications come in and a group of people have been looking at that, part of the ARLF team will look at the applications. The next phase is what we call readiness calls. So these are calls that you would be invited to attend a readiness call, and that is likely to be with either 1 or 2 members of the ARLF team, the team that are very experienced with the recruitment for this particular program, as well as the design and delivery of the majority of our other programs. And the word readiness is really where we're going to focus on those calls. So what we're seeking in those calls is to alleviate concerns, alleviate questions from candidates. Should I do this program now at this particular time in my life? Is this a good time for me to be doing this program? Is this a good time for my workplace to be able to support me doing this program? Is my family, does my family have the right sort of information or the suitable amount of information so that they would understand what it would mean if you were to undertake this program over 15 months? And then for ARLF, on the ARLF side, we'll be looking at some clarifying areas too around your readiness in terms of your own suitability. And together, we like to think that we can come to some decisions about, is this the right program for you at this particular time in your life? So they are conversations. It's not an interview. They are conversations where ARLF team members will seek to understand any concerns that you might have. And then you, on the other end, you can also ask them back of ARLF. They're really good early indicators, and we think it's an important part of the process. It's an early indicator so that if there's uncertainty, you don't need to then go through the rest of the process. You can hold or pause that process if you don't think that this is in fact the right time for you to do the program. So then that leads me on to the next step. So if you've undertaken the readiness call, and then you receive an invitation from the ARLF team that we're requesting or inviting you to attend a group workshop, then you know that you have entered into the next phase of the recruitment process. And so what we're going to be doing is holding those group workshops in October of 2024. And they are 120 minutes or 2 hours. Shorter version of 120 minutes is 2 hours. So the workshop will go for 2 hours, and we will set up a booking system for people to choose a time slot that is suitable for them. We're very conscious of different time frames and daylight savings and all of those kind of things. So we'll offer a choice and variety of time slots that you can choose from. And if you accept that invitation to attend the group workshop, then you will find yourself in a workshop with 7 other people. So we're looking at workshops of 8 candidates who are interested in continuing in the recruitment process. The workshops will be facilitated by a team of ARLF team members and our associates, and they will be workshops with multiple activities that you will be asked to participate in groups of 8, in groups of 2, in groups of 4. The activities will vary over the course of that 2-hour period. And the purpose of that is to offer you an experience that is most like the style of learning that you will undertake if you participate in the Australian Rural Leadership Program. So you will get to have a taste of some of the methods and the modes that we might be using if you were to participate in the program. So that goes for 2 hours, and if you are asked to find a time to attend one of those, we will send you a lot of information in advance about how to prepare. The most important thing to note is it's not an interview. It's not an interview. They will be activities. There will potentially be one activity that you can prepare for, but the rest really will not be. So, and it's not an interview, as you might currently know an interview to be. After that process, once we've undertaken the group workshops, we will by that stage be getting close to understanding who we might be looking at offering some places to participate in course 22. And then we'd like to have a final readiness call, because as you can see, there's a little bit of time has elapsed and you've been through this process with us. And so the second readiness call is because you might have different questions this time. So having gone a little bit further in the process, and also things might have changed for you. There might be changes in your situation and you might want to ask us some questions about that. So we want to have that second check-in with you at the end of the process. And then what we do from there is we make the offers to the successful candidates for the program. And then there's quite a lot of administration that goes with that, of course, in accepting your offer, signing contracts and so on. And if all of that is green lighted and you're happily on your way, then you will commence in June of 2025. And for those of you who do, I wish you all the best, and I know you'll have an amazing experience. Thanks, Joan. The Australian Rural Leadership Program, as I mentioned before, it's our longest standing. So we've been delivering this for the longest amount of years, and it's also our longest program. And when I say that, it goes over 15 months, and the number of days of commitment in this program is the greatest of all of the different programs that we offer. We use experiential learning methodology in our programs. So what that means is experiential learning places priority around the learner and the process of learning, as opposed to the teacher and the teaching. So it also acknowledges that experience counts for valuable learning, in the same way that theories and models and concepts and information that are often delivered more traditionally in a training or a teaching program, experiential learning values the learning that can be shaped in individuals through their own experience. So as people experience things, They then take time to reflect on that experience. They work with the current frameworks that are in their own minds. They start to look at the paradigms in which they're making sense and going about their lives in terms of leadership. And then the experience may help to shift or shape some of what people are currently doing. And so experiential learning and methodology has the capacity to shift you as a person, doing some inner work on your own development, as opposed to just expanding all the facts and knowledge that you might hold in your head. It's whole work. It's whole of person work. It's the cognitive work. It's the emotional work. It's the deep reflective work that we all must do about ourselves in order to say that you want to stand in a place to serve other people in your leadership. I think that's enough as a bit of a taster. And as I mentioned before, experiential learning, the beauty about that is you can do that anywhere. And in fact, it's best delivered in the landscape, using the landscape. So that's very much, don't think that you'll be sitting in front of a whiteboard with PowerPoint slides, even though you're doing that today. You might very well be sitting facing the most glorious sunset in a very remote part of the Northern Territory. So that's just a little bit of a high level. If you're interested in looking more at around experiential learning methodology, and I think it would be a good thing for you to start to think about as you prepare for your application, because it's a methodology that absolutely is suitable for everybody, so long as you're able to engage with it with an open mindset. Traditionally, we've all come through pretty much school systems and learning systems that are more didactic and are more teacher, trainer centered. This is not teacher, trainer centered. So it's an amazing opportunity to learn with equal value using some different methodology. Thanks, Jordan. I would like to hand over now to my colleague, Gemma Gordon. Gemma is Manager of Networks Partnerships at the Australian Rural Leadership Foundation, and she'd like to share some information with you a little bit around the expectations we have if you were offered a scholarship on behalf of a sponsor who's paid for it. Thanks, Gem.
Thanks, Andrea. Just checking that everyone can hear me clearly. Great. So my name's Gemma Gordon. I work at the foundation with the organisations that provide the scholarships for the ARLP. So it's our role to organise and secure those, or to work with organisations wanting to invest in their leadership capacity by providing a scholarship to the ARLP. So we have a range of scholarships across various agricultural industries such as cotton, grains, dairy. A number of the RDCs also offer scholarships such as AgriFutures and the Fisheries Research and Development Corporation, as well as a number of First Nations scholarships through the likes of the Torres Strait Regional Authority and the National Indigenous Australians Agency. We also have a small number of open scholarships, which we try and spread as far as we can. So we work with the organisations who provide those scholarships, and then through your application process, we are constantly assessing your eligibility for each of those scholarships. Most applicants, or many applicants, are eligible for more than one. So as you progress through the application process, or once we get to the end of that application process, we then match you against the scholarship for which you'd be most eligible, and recommend you to the funding partner based on that. Once you've been offered that scholarship, we will connect you with the person or a person at the organisation who funds your scholarship, so that you can share your experience with them as you are going through the process. They will be involved at a couple of points more formally in the program, and then that sets you up with a relationship with them to engage with the sponsor once you've completed the program. So each sponsor's expectations vary differently with how they engage with their participants. Some do it quite formally and quite regularly, and then others it's more on an as needed or ad hoc basis. So we really step you through that and support you through that. It's not a huge or onerous obligation or task. It actually, we find, really allows you to express and give back to the organisations that have provided you with this opportunity, should you be should you receive a scholarship. I'm happy to answer more specific questions if you've got them at the end, but for now, that's probably all I need to say. Thanks, Andrea.
Thanks, Gemma. So it's my pleasure now to welcome two alumni or graduates of the Australian Rural Leadership Program who completed course 29. So just a couple of cohorts ago when they graduated. So today I'm welcoming Aaron Thomas and Bernice Hookey. And I'd like first, Aaron, can I just ask you to introduce yourself, say a little bit about, I know you've dropped that in the chat box where you are, but can you just tell us a little bit about who you are and where you are and what you're doing?
Sure. Thanks, Andrea. Welcome, everybody. Like Andrea said, yeah, I graduated from course 29. Feels like a lifetime ago now. I'm based in Victoria, southeast Victoria, in Gippsland. Very cold, chilly Gippsland at the minute. And I'm a dairy farmer, a share farmer here. And I was fortunate enough to be sponsored by the Gardner Foundation, which have had a long relationship with right throughout my dairy industry. We farm on the lands of the Gurnai people here in Gippsland. What else would you like to know, Andrea? Father of two beautiful girls. I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has any thoughts or queries as we go through this webinar. Thanks, Andrea.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks for that, Aaron. That's a great introduction. And Bernice, I'll say hi to you today.
Hi, Andrea. Thank you for that. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Bernice Hookey. I'm a proud one-year woman from the Lower Gulf of Carpentaria. And like Aaron, I too have graduated from the course 29. It does feel like forever ago. And I am very grateful for the sponsorship from National Indigenous Australians Agency. And I I deliver a national women's empowerment program around Australia for in collaboration with an Aboriginal education college, Tranby, and I also have my own small business consulting in relation to driving generational equity and breaking down barriers of discrimination and racism. So I'm very, very strong advocate where I do sit on boards on a local, state and national level as well. And I also am a host here for running, bringing together past fellows and alumni of the ARLF here in the Townsville community, where I run bi-monthly networking events to just keep everyone, what we're up to. So
that's great.
And it's pretty good so far.
Thank you. Bernice, can you remember what your motivation was when you were applying for ARLP?
Oh, wow. My motivation was I was tapped on the shoulder so many times by the person that had seen the potential for me to actually submit an application and apply. Like it's really good when you do get people to encourage you like that. Being an Aboriginal woman, sometimes when you read a selection criteria of something, it wasn't, you may not see it fit for you, but when you get someone that's an ally and that's encouraging you, do embrace that and take that on. And that's what I did. So
excellent. And Aaron, what about you? Do you recall what your motivation was, why you wanted to apply for the program?
I'll just unmute myself. Been a while since I've been on Zoom. Well, it's funny, Andrea. I went at it completely blinded, really, for what I honestly thought I was going to be given $50,000 to run around the country and deliver amazing community-based, information sessions on mental health and well-being. And essentially, I had that completely wrong. But for the most amazing outcome. So yeah, I spent a lot of time in the mental health advocacy and around community. And so for me, I saw it as another way to really push myself in that space, and to step outside of the comfort zone, so to speak. I'd been through a fair bit prior to the application with mental health and nervous breakdowns and whatnot. So I was really looking forward to that next step about had come so far. What was next, and how could I, keep improving my journey? So, yeah, it was the most amazing thing that I've ever done, and it far exceeded my expectations. Let's say that.
Thanks, Aaron. Gem, did you have some questions for Bernice and Aaron?
Yes. I think it would be good if you could both share, please, just some advice for people who are considering applying. Aaron, did you want to quickly start, and then Bernice?
I get asked this question so much, Gem, and it's a real common one. Look, personally, I think if you're on this webinar, you're half a big step in the right direction of actually putting an application in. There's never a right time, so just do it. Life's busy, but I can guarantee that you'll get so much out of it. And yeah, just have a go, have a crack. That you got nothing to lose. And I can assure you that it will have a profound impact on your life and you as an individual.
Gemma, can I get you to just repeat that question, please?
Yes, I think just Bernice, what advice do you have to people on the call who are considering applying?
Yeah, don't second guess it. Just speak from the heart when you do submit your application, and that leadership is not just about a title, it's about who you are as an individual and how you are able to express that in that way for your community, even for your family. Like I'm a mum of sons, and one of the biggest things out of this is we're there for our children, but we also are there to invest in ourselves so our children have better lives too. So yeah, and I see Ali has asked a question there. What was the best part of this course is the connection and the small community of it, and being part of everyday learning, and that you're always going to face challenges and obstacles as that leader, but that's where from your own strength and your resilience to how you react to things and how you are able to push forward on that as well. So I'd say session 1 was the best, with absolutely no contact from the outside world.
Thanks, Bernice. Thanks for sharing that. And this ties in a little bit, I guess, to another question we were going to pose to you about ensuring that your family and your employers are really, really in support of what you're doing. And Bernice, you did mention there that in the commencement session of the Australian Rural Leadership Program, it is delivered in a remote setting. And as a result of that, there is limited to no communications. And for that 12-day period, participants will not have any contact with family, employers, and so on. Now, from time to time, that's the thing that most is worrying for people going on the programs. And increasingly, we know that some family members get quite concerned about it as well. Aaron, what was your experience of that, actually not having any contact for 12 days? And perhaps what did it mean for your family?
Yeah, thanks, Andrea. It's a massive part of the whole program, to be honest with you. So I'm glad that we get to spend some time on this. I probably underestimated the impact it had on my children, actually. I loved it personally. I absolutely loved it. It was just the most exhilarating thing to be, you know, just to focus on yourself and your cohort for that 12 days. Like, it was, you know, for me, it was easy. Just lost an earbud, pardon me. But I didn't realize the impact it had on my children once I got back. So my advice would be just to have a really open, like everyone on the webinar, you know about it now. There is going to be a period on the program where it's, you know, like Andrew said, 10 to 12 days where you won't have your phone or the ability to contact the outside world. But just have that open conversation and make sure that your family and friends are well aware of it. You are always well looked after and supported through those 12 days. You know, it's, for some people, it's a big thing, not to be able to contact family, friends, work colleagues, and the rest of it. But really, for me, it was probably one of the highlights of the program, is being forced to partake in that. Like, you know, you surrender your phone and your wallet and your whole life, really. So for me, it was absolutely amazing and I loved it. But yes, please have that conversation with your family and friends, make them well aware of it. You know, if there is an emergency, there's always ways to be contacted through the foundation. So, you know, please be rest assured of that. But yeah, jump in it and just really embrace it. And like Andrea said in her opening remarks, it's all about going into it with an open mindset. But please chat to your family and friends, let them know what that expectation will be and what it looks like, and then hopefully you can, you know, make the right call and put your application in.
Yeah, and can I just ask you one more thing, Aaron, because
Sure.
You actually mentioned it when you did your introduction. So do you feel that you were supported with any physical, psychological requirements that you might have needed? Because you did mention that there had been, prior to applying for the program, there were some things that might have been going on in your life and that perhaps they were still, you know, with you, very much part of your life on the program. Was the program experience one that you felt supported by your colleagues and your peers and also by the RLF team?
Yeah, 100%. Because I was just open and honest. And, you know, when I was going through the application and actually getting ready to go on session one, you know, I'd made sure that our ARLF team who are looking after cohort 29 knew of all of those potential things that could trip me up on session. So yeah, please, but just be open, be honest, and you'll be supported, and you won't have a problem. It's a very, very safe environment.
Thanks so much, Aaron. Bernice, what about you? Anything for families to consider that time away when you are out of contact?
Yes, particularly if you do come up from a remote location and from an Indigenous family unit, you just rest assured your family members around you that you are available to contact, but you're also, this is all part of that process in what you are going to be learning along the way. And like what Aaron said, it was actually nice to detox literally, and but also to do that as a practice post the program was something that was also. So if you feel that you are ready to take that by submitting an application, then do it, but have those open conversations, and don't also be afraid to ask questions. No question is a silly question, and you do come together when you are told you have a successor of the program. You start out as being complete strangers, but you end up being lifelong friends and family where you reach out, and it is so important that your capacity to handle that is this is where it truly will test your leadership. So it's definitely an amazing program to participate in.
Thank you. Gem, you might have some more questions. I see there's a few being posted in the chat box, specifically around sponsors and so on as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yes, I think I've been trying to answer some of them in the chat, but my chat's a bit clunky for some reason, sorry. But Aaron, I thought it might be good, or you're a really great example. You mentioned at the start of the webinar that you were sponsored by the Gardner Dairy Foundation. Could you share a few examples of how you've worked with them both during the program and also since? Because I think you as an individual and them as an organisation have taken quite a unique approach between the two of you of how you can really contribute to the dairy industry in Victoria.
Yeah, thanks, Gem. Yeah, so Gardner Foundation were really fantastic in terms of, you know, they know how hard it is, you know, for a dairy farmer to get, you know, off farm and do things, especially when you've just been away for, you know, 50 something days. So they were really supportive in, you know, giving me time to get things together and stuff like that. But yeah, I've always had a good relationship with Gardner, so I was very fortunate, you know, to have been on some other study tours that were funded by Gardner many years ago. But essentially, you know, they've invited me to board meetings where I've been able to present my story or present my journey to the board, so the board could see exactly, you know, value for money, I suppose. There's also been opportunities at dairy industry luncheons where I've presented on my journey to, you know, obviously anyone in the dairy industry that might be thinking about applying, just give them some insights. So, yeah, look, I'm a big fan of Gardner. Gem, you probably know that. I've been working with them for a long time now. So, you know, for them to do this for me was just a, you know, absolute blessing, and you know, be forever grateful to Gardner. Did I answer your question? I kind of feel like I've gone around it a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think what's really good about it is that you two of you have taken a really unique approach that's really harnessed your strengths to allow you to give back into the, and your experience to give back into the industry in that manner. So what I really wanted to highlight is that each organisation does tend to take quite a different approach, and that's what's worked really well for you and the Gardner Foundation. And so it does really vary from sponsor to sponsor.
Yeah, of course. Yep.
Thanks, Gem. There's a couple of questions posed here in the chat, which I might just have a look at a couple of those. Gem, are you happy? There was some questions there about availability of scholarships. I think it probably is worth noting the sort of the limits, I guess, on the scholarships and how we might match or find sponsorships, if you want to talk to that for a few minutes.
Yes, so I've been trying to answer the questions as they've come up. So the scholarships cover your travel and accommodation, your participation in the program. Each scholarship has its own unique eligibility criteria. For instance, the scholarship provided by the cotton industry organisations is for someone working in or for the cotton industry. So we have a range. Normally it's about between 30 and 35 scholarships available for each cohort. And as I said, you may be eligible for a number of them. So you might be eligible for a red meat one, as well as the grains one, or a health one, or, you know, something, depending on where you are and what your sort of role or leadership role is, and what aspect that takes. We generally can get all of that information that we need to determine your eligibility for each of the scholarships that we have. And I think if we require more information, we come back to you. Is that, I think I've answered most of the questions otherwise. Yes, we do take, if you have someone that you think would be interested or able to sponsor your scholarship, please refer them to me and I can have a discussion with them. You still need to complete our recruitment and assessment process to determine that you are the right person at the right stage and the right frame of mind to get the most out of the program. But absolutely. And we often will go back into what we call a business development process. Once we've received all of the applications, we have this pool of excellent, amazing people, and we really go out and work hard to try and find scholarships for them if we don't have one already. So
thanks, Gem. There's a couple of questions posed here, I guess, that really are around the what is ARLF, or who is ARLF looking for? Do we use any selection criteria, or do we look for any particular attributes when we are in the selection process? And I think a lot of it is tied to what Gemma has said. So with certain categories of scholarship available, we can only look at a certain group of people who meet the eligibility criteria of that scholarship. So that is one consideration that we make. And then in addition to that, there are some things that we are looking for in terms of people who we think, and I go back to that what I spoke about readiness at the beginning, where we're making some observations and assessments around how we think this person might participate in a program of experiential learning, and how they will gain value from the program itself, and how they might offer value to the other people in the program. So when we are looking at selecting people for our program, we're not just looking at you as an individual, we are absolutely looking at you in terms of how you will contribute to the makeup of the cohort of up to 30 people. And that's a very strong intention that we have. Not only are we looking for diversity of where people live, the industries that they're from, their life experience, so many different factors, but we really are looking at those individual attributes and how you will add value to the learning of other people. Those are some of the things that really just are the observations of people like myself and my team, who have delivered so many of these programs, that we come to have an awareness of how people can actually are likely to make a contribution to the program. Or we might ask you that directly. But I'm curious, Aaron and Bernice, you were in a cohort, you saw your colleagues, you reflected on yourself as a participant in that program. You might have even come to some sort of conclusions about the kind of person, A, that we choose for programs, or B, the people that you think these are the people that are going to get the best benefit out of a program. And if there's attributes of that, would you be willing to share some of those from your own lived experience?
Sure. I see there was a question there about when I said, speak from your heart. There is one. The thing around that is, like, you can have a banging and a smashing application that's submitted, and then you can be selected. But the real test is your endurance in it and your physical mentality around that. So please ensure, and like, if you feel it within, you're feeling it from a place of you're wanting to be changing people's lives, and first part of that is you're changing your life to do that. And that, like, for example, I once upon a time, I was a crazy fit person, but when I got into these leadership roles, that part of that was a little bit every now and again. But don't ever doubt yourself, because if you can allow for the capacity and what you are out there to achieve on that level to meet your mental expectations as well as your physical, then you meet in the middle on that, and you can drive. It's a driving force from there. So, and know that you are supported. Like, be vulnerable in that process too. Like, if you it doesn't make you any less of a professional person, that because you've shed a few tears, because you are speaking from the heart to when you say you get to an interview process in this, it's showing your passion and compassion in what you want to do. So when you do get to that this level of what this flagship program offers, it offers it because it sees that potential in how you challenge yourself. And if you're up for that challenge, go for it. It's a collective gathering of leaders around this countryside that are there to support. And you may not have even crossed paths with someone, but that's what experiential learnings in this process is all about, is that it's a process, and to be open to the change in that. So it can allow you to step into your truth, but also step into honoring who you are as a person, for you to be that leader out there.
Thank you, Bernice. Aaron, what about you?
Bert, I think you nailed it really. Look, from my personal perspective, I think the foundation do a fantastic job at getting a mix of people in the cohort. Like, in our cohort, Bert, we had dentists, dairy farmers, station managers, doctors, executives, this a wide spread of people. And I mean, let's be honest, you're not going to click with everybody on the cohort, and that's perfectly fine. But as long as you go with an open mind and be mindful of respectful conversation and respectful debate and all the rest of that, fun stuff. The cohort is like a it's like a family. You go into this bubble, and sometimes it can be quite hard when you come out of that bubble. Hey, Bert, like to leave the cohort and go back to your normal life, you kind of think, oh, I want my cohort back.
Yes.
But yeah, look, the foundation do a very, very good job at getting a good mix of people.
Diversity is like
huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just on I seen a question there around, what did I see that question on? Carol has asked how the program has influenced the work and leadership since the graduation. I say the power of networking and to hustle, and how that's influenced my work is I've gone out there. I've even had members within my own cohort, like Aaron, for example, reached out to me, and I've supported and mentored through processes like that. But it's influenced in a way where I've been recognised. I think I've won 4 awards since coming through all of this. So, and they've been recognised nationally as well as globally. So the world is your oyster, pretty much.
Thanks, Bernice. That's great. Okay, Gem, anything you want to pick up in the chat before we close out?
I just swapped over to the Q&A section to check there, and there was just one more question which might be good for you to cover, Andrea. So what are the key selection criteria or major requirements for being an applicant? Did you want to speak to that quickly?
I think firstly, look at the questions in the application. So this is a program that is for what we would deem established people at an established level of leadership in terms of their own development. What that doesn't mean, however, is that you have to be in a particular role at a particular level, doing a particular sort of positional role. That's not what we mean by established. What we mean by that is that you're undertaking leadership. You might have been appointed to a leadership role, or you just actually are really committed to leadership as a practice. And that is one of the distinguishing things, and we will go looking for that in applications, in the readiness calls, in the workshops as well, is that we really are looking for people who can distinguish between leadership that is a practice and leadership is something that everyone can do. All of us can undertake leadership as a practice, as opposed to looking at leadership as a position. They are distinctly different. And ARLF hold a views that everybody can undertake leadership. So people at established leadership have had some experience or are currently experiencing work that needs to be done alongside other people around things that are increasingly complex and dynamic and uncertain. That is the realm of leadership. So if you think to yourself, oh, that is absolutely me, I'm wanting to make contributions to my community or my workplace or my industry, or it's being asked of me, and what I see is a situation or a set of factors that are quite uncertain. They require a lot of people to work around them. It's not work that I can undertake on my own. I need to understand some of the more current, up-to-date thinking around leadership practice. Then I would say that is you. As opposed to someone who might be thinking established means that I've been in a role for 25 years and I've actually got a lot of experience at a leadership level, and there's not much more that I can learn or develop. So if that's part of your kind of mindset, I would say from the outset, this just will not be the program for you. And we will question around those lines. So just think of leadership as a practice. Leadership is something that is done collectively, that when you learn best in groups, and learning is a very active pursuit. It's not a passive. And that you are committed to working on the emergent, complex challenges and opportunities in rural, regional and remote Australia. And you understand that in leadership, you don't hold the answers, and you're perhaps not in a situation where you've got the current networks to support you. And so this program may in fact do those two things. They'll support your development and they'll give you networks in which you can approach those complex opportunities. So I'd say those are some of the very high level criteria that we'd be looking for, Gem. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. We've just gone a minute over time. I would like to thank you all very, very much for your attendance today. A big thank you, a warm thank you to Bernice and Aaron. Thank you so much for coming back again. We always love to see graduates and alumni of the foundation doing so much incredible work across the nation. And of course to the ARLF team and everybody involved in the recruitment for course 32 of ARLP. Please go to the website where there's more information, a homepage where you can actually click and to apply now for your application. You can also send through some inquiries if you like through the general ARLF info email. Just one note, please, when you're registering in your application, please could you use a personal email address? Sometimes addresses that are attached, Gmail addresses that are attached to government or departments where there are safety walls, mean that your applications can be lost quite easily. So if you can actually give us a personal email address rather than one attached to your organisation, that would be greatly appreciated. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and best wishes to all of you as you continue to consider whether you're going to apply for the program. Thank you.
Best of luck. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
You don't need us to